Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because what I'm about to show you tonight, this is something that no one, not Ottawa, not the mainstream press, not even most Americans ever believed that they would live to see. Just hours ago, under the cold sky of Washington, D.C., an Alberta delegation landed on U.S. soil for what insiders are calling the most explosive political meeting between Canada and the United States since 1812. Now, this is not a rumor. This is not speculation. This is happening right now as President Donald J. Trump enters the final year of one of the most economically aggressive terms in American history. And suddenly, Western Canada is knocking on America's door because across Alberta, across Saskatchewan, across British Columbia, something has just snapped. People who once begged Ottawa to listen are now saying, oh, we're done. People who once laughed at the idea of separating are now signing petitions by the hundreds of thousands. And people who once thought joining the United States was a fringe fantasy, they're now watching official invitations come in from American lawmakers. Now, for the first time in modern history, the question isn't, will Alberta leave Canada? The question is, what role will America play when they do? Now, tonight, we're diving into the breaking story that the media refuses to touch because it threatens to reshape the map of North America itself. A citizen-led revolt, a panicked Ottawa, a U.S. delegation ready to talk statehood, and a Western bloc so fed up they're openly preparing to hit the eject button. Guys, this is not politics anymore. This is an international tipping point. So stay with me because what happens next could determine whether Alberta becomes America's 51st state or whether the entire Canadian Confederation collapses under its own weight. Hit the like button and subscribe. Let's get into it. So what we know tonight is this. The Alberta delegation that touched down in Washington isn't ceremonial, it's strategic. I mean, it includes senior advisors that are tied directly to Alberta's economic ministry, legal architects from the autonomy push, and two very high-profile energy executives who have been quietly coordinating with U.S. trade officials for months. Now, their itinerary includes closed-door sessions with White House economic staff, members of the House Energy Committee, and Trump-aligned senators. Now, Ottawa's reaction has been frantic, while American lawmakers, especially Republicans, are signaling a surprising willingness to listen. So inside the Trump administration, the language has shifted dramatically. I mean, no one is dismissing Alberta or Saskatchewan as the internal Canadian matters anymore. I mean, senior Trump advisors are now describing the Western provinces as strategic economic allies, citing their energy output, their mineral reserves, and of course, their geographic access. Quiet diplomatic channels opened in early 2025 have now expanded into structured communications. And under President Trump's America First 2.0 doctrine, focused on energy dominance and continental stability, this moment right here becomes unprecedented. The White House is openly evaluating Western Canada as a potential long-term partner with a very serious political realignment potential. Now, across Alberta, the citizen-led referendum push isn't just growing, it's detonating. I mean, signature drives that once struggled to gain attention, they're now hitting record numbers with volunteers collecting names faster than the system can verify them. The threshold required to trigger the 2026 referendum is no longer a challenge, it's a countdown. People who never supported separation are signing out of frustration, anger, or just pure economic self-preservation. The sentiment is shifting from, should we leave, to why haven't we left already? And Ottawa feels that pressure. Now, everyone has that one decision that changes everything. For thousands of retirees, it was calling Chapter about their Medicare plan. This is why I partner with Chapter, because they make that turning point simple, fast, and life-changing. Now, one viewer said, it felt like I got my power back. Now, let me ask you, is this your turning point? Now, most people already cross that line by dialing the number at the bottom of your screen or by visiting askchapter.org/Ron. That phone number again is 909-563-8279. And here's another real viewer comment. So M. Burns said, hey, Ron, I called Chapter on Sunday, 5-minute wait. Scott was great, saved me money. I love it. So the ground is shifting beyond Alberta. Saskatchewan's leadership is signaling quiet but unmistakable alignment, with provincial lawmakers openly questioning the sustainability of staying in a federation that they feel is structurally stacked against them. Meanwhile, British Columbia's breakaway factions, they're gaining traction as civic groups in Vancouver, Kelowna. The interior rally is gathering around grievances, pipeline cancellations, equalization formulas, federal environmental overreach. I mean, cross-border alliances are forming, uniting Western provinces under a single growing belief that Ottawa is no longer negotiating in good faith and alternatives must be explored. Then came the spark that threw the gasoline onto the already blazing fire. There was a viral letter from Maine politician Joe Martin inviting Alberta, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia to the United States. Now, this message spread so fast that it crashed Martin's website within hours. Alberta's public response was cautious, but privately, insiders are saying that the letter triggered immediate strategic discussions. Ottawa, meanwhile, exploded. Calls for a diplomatic reprimand flew across Parliament Hill as skeptics accused the U.S. of meddling. But the truth is simple. The idea resonated. And of course, behind the scenes, the Alberta Prosperity Project has become the organizing engine of the movement. Their legal teams are drafting frameworks for independence and statehood pathways. Their volunteer network is now province-wide, equipped with data operations rivaling small political parties. I mean, a leaked internal briefing made waves. Statehood is easier than independence. Guys, that line alone, it sent shockwaves through D.C., where policymakers realized Alberta wasn't bluffing. With petition numbers surging, the APP's influence is no longer theoretical. It is shaping the future direction of Western Canada. Tension erupted when legal battles in Edmonton exposed what many Albertans believe is a coordinated attempt by Ottawa to stall or derail the referendum. Lawyers that are tied to federal interests, they argued these procedural technicalities, sparking accusations that the liberal establishment is terrified of a legitimate vote. Judges demanded clarity on constitutional obligations, hinting that Ottawa's position isn't as firm as it pretends. Now, to Alberta supporters, this wasn't a legal debate. This was proof of a national government fighting to keep provinces trapped in a broken system. Now, what really shocked analysts the most is who's driving the movement. Young Western Canadians, Calgary tech workers, Vancouver logistics professionals, and Edmonton tradespeople are publicly admitting that the numbers, they're favoring U.S. statehood. Viral interviews captured the mood. The math just doesn't math. They see American wages, lower taxes, freer markets, and fewer restrictions. Culturally, they're aligning southward toward Montana, Idaho, Washington, and the Dakotas far more than toward Ottawa or to Toronto. Now, for the first time, Western Canada's future identity, it's genuinely up for grabs. Now, economically, the U.S. statehood argument has gained teeth under President Trump. Analysts note that Alberta's oil and gas sector, long throttled by federal bottlenecks, would be unleashed under America's deregulated energy policy. Immediate access to U.S. markets, reduced export barriers, and direct integration into American infrastructure networks create projections of double-digit GDP boosts. Trump's administration has already signaled openness to welcoming energy-rich regions that align with his America First energy doctrine. Now, for many Western Canadians, the numbers paint a future that Canada just simply cannot match. Now, at the center of Western frustration is Prime Minister Mark Carney, a leader critics accuse of prioritizing international climate agendas over national economic stability. Now, his sweeping economic mandates and aggressive regulatory frameworks have hammered Alberta and Saskatchewan's resource sectors. Equalization payments continue flowing eastward while Western provinces shoulder the economic cost. The phrase taxation without representation is resurfacing across the prairies. Now, to many residents, Carney's Ottawa isn't just out of touch. It's actively undermining the very provinces that power the Canadian economy. British Columbia's separatist energy has taken a different form, less emotional, more strategic. Cascadia advocates argue BC is economically and environmentally aligned with Washington and Oregon, not Ottawa. In 2025, BC has been increasingly acting like a semi-autonomous region, making pipeline, LNG, and trade decisions without federal input. Reports suggest quiet exploratory conversation with U.S. regional offices. Now, for many in BC, joining a West Coast economic zone feels more natural than remaining tethered to a federal system that doesn't reflect their priorities. Manitoba now faces a geopolitical nightmare scenario. If Alberta and Saskatchewan separate, or worse, move toward U.S. statehood, Manitoba becomes physically isolated from eastern Canada with no practical land route connecting it to Ottawa. Legislative insiders inside Winnipeg reportedly held emergency meetings as staff realized that their province may be forced to pick a side. Its options are rather grim. Negotiate corridor rights through newly independent regions, maintain an island-like relationship with Ottawa, or join Western provinces in forging a new political reality. Now, in Washington, the whispers have turned into patterns. Multiple Western Canadian delegates have reportedly met with U.S. senators, Homeland Security analysts, and Trump-aligned trade officials to explore what statehood, territorial status, or economic partnership models could realistically look like. Now, none of this information is public yet, but the visitor logs speak volumes. The Trump White House views Western Canada as a potential strategic asset, energy-rich, geographically vital, and ideologically aligned. Officials describe Ottawa and Saskatchewan not as neighbors, but as future partners. Now, to understand the stakes, just look back at Quebec's razor-thin 1995 vote. 49.4% voted to leave. The Supreme Court later ruled that a clear majority on a clear question obligates Ottawa to negotiate separation. Now, imagine that precedent hitting from the West, not the East, and imagine Ottawa facing Quebec separatism and Western separatism simultaneously. Constitutional experts are warning that the federal government simply just doesn't have the institutional capacity to fight two breakaway movements at once. Canada's unity is no longer theoretical, it's mathematically fragile. Alberta's Bill 1 is the clearest sign that the province isn't bluffing. The legislation restructures how Alberta manages resources, collects taxes, and coordinates law enforcement, building parallel systems that function independently of Ottawa. In essence, Alberta is constructing the legal architecture of a sovereign state. Critics say it's a soft exit strategy. Supporters are saying that it's overdue protection against federal overreach. But either way, no matter how you cut it, it signals a province that is preparing for the day when Ottawa's authority is no longer recognized as binding. Now, in the United States, conservative lawmakers, they're increasingly vocal about the prospect of welcoming Western Canada into the American fold. Senators aligned with Trump describe Alberta and Saskatchewan as the missing pillars of North American energy dominance. Now, on top of that, think tanks are publishing reports outlining military, economic, and industrial advantages of integrating Canada's resource provinces into the U.S. system. Now, for American conservatives, this isn't charity, it's strategy. Alberta's oil, BC ports, Saskatchewan's minerals all fit neatly into Trump's continental energy blueprint. And a leaked internal memo from Ottawa revealed just how terrified the federal government has become. Senior ministers warned Prime Minister Mark Carney that a Western exit, especially if paired with U.S. statehood talks, poses an existential threat to Confederation. Economic modeling inside the memo also projected a catastrophic collapse of federal revenue if Alberta and Saskatchewan withdraw. In response, Mark Carney, he reportedly ordered an emergency national unity strategy. But privately, insiders admit the truth. Ottawa no longer knows how to stop the momentum. And so what's unfolding right now feels less like provincial governance and more like parallel nation building. Western premiers are holding cross-border policy meetings without Ottawa, signing trade letters of intent with U.S. partners, and communicating with foreign companies directly. Public messaging has turned bold, sometimes confrontational, implying that they no longer see themselves as subordinate actors. Now, for many Western Canadians, their premiers now function as de facto heads of state, governing with a level of autonomy that suggests the break from Ottawa is already underway. Polling across Western Canada tells a story Ottawa doesn't want to face. Only 47% of Albertans say that they're optimistic about Canada's future, a record low. Support for separation and even U.S. statehood has surged by double digits since early 2025. Younger voters, once the most federalist demographic, they're now the most skeptical. Trend lines suggest that if a referendum were held today, the Leave Canada side would likely win. The data is clear. Western trust in Ottawa isn't slipping, it's collapsing. This moment today here is the most volatile political convergence in Canada's modern history. Hands down, a U.S. invitation from Joe Martin, a referendum movement gaining unstoppable momentum, and a federal government paralyzed by internal division and economic strain, all three forces hit simultaneously, reshaping Western Canada's identity. Now, for millions, the break doesn't feel like a possibility. It feels like something that's already in motion. The referendums will simply formalize a separation that, in practice, is already underway across political, economic, and cultural lines. So the real question that hangs over the continent tonight is, could Western provinces truly become America's next states? I mean, legally, constitutionally, economically, the path is no longer abstract. Analysts say that the logistics are challenging, but they're feasible. Identity is the real battleground. Western Canadians are grappling with a future where loyalty actually shifts southward while Ottawa's influence fades. And with 2026 approaching fast, the next 12 months may determine whether Canada holds together or whether new stars appear on the American flag. Now, ladies and gentlemen, history isn't creeping toward us anymore. It's sprinting. Alberta's delegation has landed in Washington, D.C. Ottawa's panicking, petitions are exploding, and the United States under President Donald J. Trump is quietly watching, waiting, and preparing for a moment that could redefine North America. Whether Western provinces become independent, whether they form a new alliance, or whether they become America's next states. But one thing is certain, the map we grew up with is no longer guaranteed. Now, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Alberta becomes the 51st state? Do you think Saskatchewan follows? Do you think Ottawa can stop what's coming? Because the clock is ticking and the next 18 months may determine the fate of a nation. Like, subscribe, share this video. We'll keep tracking every step of this historic shift.